Coming up on 5 Minute News. Biden's agenda in peril as Democrat conflict looms over shutdown. Fighting misinformation, YouTube bans vaccine conspiracies. And US general says Afghan collapse traced to Trump's Taliban deal. It's Thursday, September 30. I'm Anthony Davis. Joe Biden's agenda of reform was at risk of being derailed by divisions among his own Democrats, as moderates voiced anger on Wednesday at the idea of delaying a $1 trillion infrastructure bill ahead of a critical vote to avert a government shutdown. The White House said talks over twin bills that would revitalize the nation's roads and airports and fund social programs and climate change measures were at a precarious point as Senator Joe Manchin disagreed with the rest of the party over the scope of some $4 trillion in spending. Congress, which Democrats control by a razor-thin margin, is due to vote on a bipartisan resolution to fund federal operations through early December. The House of Representatives is expected to vote today on a $1 trillion infrastructure bill already passed by the Senate, although some party leaders warned that vote could be delayed again, which would dismay moderates. With House progressives warning they will vote against the infrastructure bill until a deal is reached on the separate multi-trillion-dollar plan focused on social spending and climate, the vote was not guaranteed. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer went to the White House yesterday afternoon to meet Joe Biden, a former senator himself, who cancelled a trip to Chicago to lead negotiations with Congress. A White House staffer met at the Capitol with conservative Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema, who had expressed deep concern over the size of Biden's plans and has the power to block them due to the Democrats' narrow control of the Senate. YouTube announced a sweeping crackdown of vaccine misinformation on Wednesday that booted popular anti-vaccine influencers from its site and deleted false claims that have been made about a range of immunizations. The video-sharing platform said it will no longer allow users to baselessly speculate that approved vaccines, like the ones given to prevent the flu or measles, are dangerous or cause diseases. YouTube's latest attempt to stem a tide of vaccine misinformation comes as countries around the globe struggle to convince a somewhat vaccine-hesitant public to accept the free immunizations that scientists know will end the COVID-19 pandemic that began 20 months ago. We've steadily seen false claims about the coronavirus vaccine spill over into misinformation about vaccines in general, and we're now at a point where it's more important than ever to expand the work we started with COVID-19 to other vaccines, YouTube said in a blog post. Up until Wednesday, anti-vaccine influencers, who have thousands of subscribers, had used YouTube to stoke fears around vaccines that health experts point out have been safely administered for decades. The YouTube channel of an organization run by conspiracy theorist Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was one of several popular anti-vaccine accounts that was gone by Wednesday morning. The collapse of the Afghan government and its security forces can be traced to a 2020 agreement between the Taliban and the Trump administration that promised a complete U.S. troop withdrawal, senior Pentagon officials have told Congress. General Frank McKenzie, the head of Central Command, told the House Armed Services Committee that once the U.S. troop presence was pushed below 2,500 as part of President Joe Biden's decision in April to complete a total withdrawal by September, the unraveling of the U.S.-backed Afghan government accelerated. A February 2020 agreement that the Trump administration signed with the Taliban in Doha, Qatar, in which the US promised to fully withdraw its troops by May 2021, and the Taliban committed to several conditions, including stopping attacks on American and coalition forces. With a short-term ceasefire in place, Trump was angling for a Nobel Peace Prize nomination for himself after being angered that former President Obama had received one and not him. McKenzie said in addition to the morale-depleting efforts of the Doha Agreement, the troop reduction ordered by Biden in April was the other nail in the coffin for the 20-year war effort, because it blinded the US military to conditions inside the Afghan army, because our advisors were no longer down there with those units, he said. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, testifying alongside McKenzie, said he agreed with McKenzie's analysis. Wednesday's hearing was politically charged, with Republicans seeking to cast Biden as wrong-headed on Afghanistan and Democrats pointing to what they called ill-advised decisions during the Trump years. You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen Podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.